Hey, what's up guys? So this episode is exclusively about the ladies. Well, it's not going to be that romantic because today they will look more like this. In this video, we're covering the creepiest and craziest women in horror movies. And who better to talk about all these women than a man? Me, in case that wasn't clear. Let's see how scary this list will get. There's a lot to cover, so let's get started. KAIRO. There have been entire video essays made about this one scene from a Japanese horror movie titled Pulse, or KAIRO. This scene almost works best on its own in my opinion. A man walks around late at night and sees an ominous door with red tape around it. He walks up to it, removes the tape, and enters the room, which looks like a basement. He goes in further, and from what we see, the room appears to be empty, but once he walks all the way to the end, he turns around and sees it. The woman then starts, by the way, I can't show the full clip because of like copyright claims and stuff, but the woman then starts walking towards him. That's it. She's just walking. But for some reason, it's the creepiest thing ever, and it gets worse. After a few steps, she trips, I think, and makes this weird looking move. There's something so haunting about this scene, and it freaks out almost anybody who watches it. So in case you don't want to sleep tonight, the full scene is on YouTube. In the American remake, there's a similar scene where the guy gets haunted by bad CGI, which is also scary, but in a different way. Even though the scene works on its own, it might be scarier if you know what the movie is about. After a college student commits suicide, several people across Tokyo experience creepy visions that are spread using the internet. As the story goes on, more and more people begin to disappear as it becomes clear that the internet is full of evil spirits. Maybe I can use that when somebody sees my browsing history. Hey, the ghost did it. Just kidding, you always gotta switch to incognito mode. The movie follows 3 different people and their attempts to solve the mystery. Even though you can tell that this was made on a lower budget than your average Hollywood movie, they actually used this to their benefit. I've talked about this multiple times on this channel, but a lower quality in the horror genre can, oddly enough, give it a creepier visual style. The Woman in Black. This was the movie that when I was in high school, we always watched during like sleepovers or Halloween parties. I think I've watched this one at least 10 times. The Woman in Black follows a young lawyer played by Harry Potter who, following the death of his wife, is now a single father. He's starting to screw up at work and is about to be fired when he's given one last chance to prove himself. He must go to a certain isolated house and spend a few nights there to sort through all the remaining paperwork. Pretty quickly he finds out that there's something very wrong here, and the nearby villagers are holding some dark secrets, and it all has to do with a ghostly presence who we know as the Woman in Black, or Jeanette Humphrey, but you know, that doesn't sound that scary. The movie is filled with individual creepy moments almost like back to back to back. This is such a good haunted house movie, and there's one scene that still haunts me a little bit to this day. Towards the finale of the movie, Arthur, that's the main character's name by the way, Arthur stands at the end of a long hallway and can just barely see a face in the distance. The lights go out one by one, moving closer to him, and you can see how the Woman in Black slowly approaches. At this point in the story, you know that there is no escape. This is the direct confrontation that the movie was leading to, and it's unavoidable. What makes this movie stick is how relentless the ghost is. Towards the end of the movie, you can hear her repeatedly mutter, "Never forgive," which shows that even though Arthur tries everything to stop the haunting and does seemingly successfully stop her at first, the Woman in Black just continues to come after him anyway. That "never forgive" line, I didn't even need to look it up. That's all from memory, even though I haven't seen this movie in years. The Ring. The movie that made us scared of the television. The Ring, which is just over 20 years old now, still holds up today, and is most well known for the creepy girl with the hair in front of her face who will kill you without ever touching you. Even the parody version from Scary Movie 3, I think, still creeped me out when I first saw her. What makes her even scarier is that she appears out of the things we all probably use most in our day-to-day lives, screens. I always wondered what happens if the video starts playing on a phone. Wouldn't like just her hand come out? I don't know. Anyway, I think we all know how this movie goes, right? There's a haunted VHS tape that if you watch it shows a lot of very unsettling imagery. After completing it, you will get a call saying you will die in 7 days, and exactly 1 week later, your TV will turn on randomly and a video of a well will appear. This still gives me chills even to this day. What makes this work so well is that her face is covered. We don't know what she feels or what her intentions are, and that makes it even creepier. Thank God I don't have a VHS player. Even though the sequels weren't that well received, the original still really works as a horror mystery film that follows journalist Rachel Keller, who notices that a group of teenagers, all friends, die on the same day. She finds out about the VHS tape, and even though it seems more like a typical urban legend, the fact that all the dead teens watched it spikes her interest and she begins investigating. After watching the tape herself, it becomes clear that she needs to find out how to undo the curse, which she does successfully do by sacrificing her simp ex-boyfriend. Oh yes, sure, I'll do anything for you, man, get that out of here. Get out. This to me was always more of a thriller than a horror movie, but it's still really good. Get Out follows the story of Chris Washington, a young African-American man who visits his white girlfriend Rose Armitage's family estate. Rose initially appears to be supportive and understanding of Chris's concern about being the only black person in a predominantly white environment. Things are only a little awkward at first, with the family seemingly being hyper-aware of his race, but it looks like they kind of mean well. However, it only gets stranger and stranger. It becomes clear that the family has some sinister plans with Chris, and it looks like he's only able to trust Rose. The twist in this movie is one of those skin-crawling moments. Chris, by chance, almost checks the contents of a small box in Rose's room. He finds a stack of pictures with all the other former boyfriends of Rose. It becomes clear that she's a key player in her family's sinister plot, which involves luring black people to their home and using a form of mind control to transplant the consciousness of white people into their bodies. This allows her family and their wealthy friends to achieve a form of immortality by taking over the bodies of their victims. Almost everything in this movie has a deeper meaning. There are so many small details that show how the family truly feels about Chris before the big reveal happens. Lights Out. Even though there's a full-feature movie of Lights Out, the original short film from David F. Sandberg, who also made the feature, is probably one of the best horror shorts out there. A woman goes to bed late at night, but when she turns off the lights in the hallway, she can see a dark figure standing in the shadows. She flickers the lights on and off, and every time she turns it off, she appears, eventually getting much closer to her. She tapes up the light switch and goes to bed, but she can still hear footsteps coming from outside the bedroom. Then the light on her nightstand begins flickering because it isn't plugged in properly. She struggles with the light, but after some time everything stops and it appears to have gone back to normal. But then... Not only is the creepy smiling woman absolutely terrifying, but the fact that she appears when the lights are off heightens our fear of the dark. Annabelle. I don't even know if this one counts, but I'm going to include it anyway. Even though the full movie wasn't that well received, in the Conjuring universe, the Annabelle doll is a cursed object with a dark history, and she's pretty creepy. It resembles a classic, almost like porcelain doll with an innocent yet unsettling smile. However, beneath its seemingly harmless exterior lies a conduit for evil supernatural forces. In the movie Annabelle Creation, which was much better than anyone expected, her origins are revealed. The story begins with a doll maker named Samuel Mullins and his wife Esther. They live in a secluded house and lead a quiet life with their daughter Annabelle. Tragedy strikes when she's killed in a car accident. Grief-stricken by their loss, the Mullins couple, desperate to see their daughter again, makes a deal with a dark supernatural entity. They believe that they can bring back their daughter's spirit by allowing the entity to inhabit one of Samuel's handmade dolls. However, they quickly realize that they've made a huge mistake, as this thing becomes a conduit for other malevolent forces. Years later, the Mullins open their home to a group of orphans and their caretaker. The presence of the haunted toy unleashes a series of creepy events, and the orphans find themselves tormented by the evil spirit inhabiting the doll. By the end of the movie, the evil spirit has possessed one of the orphans, who 12 years later, after getting adopted, becomes a devil worshipper. The orphan, who renamed herself Annabelle, dies during a break-in, and a drop of her blood falls on the other Annabelle, returning the evil spirit into the object. Audition. If we're talking about crazy women, we cannot avoid Audition. This story follows a widower named Shigeharu Ayuama, hope I'm saying that right, who at the encouragement of his friend decides to hold a fake audition to find a new wife. It's like a casting for a film, but there's actually no film and he's just using it to find hot girls. So I guess whatever happens to him, he kinda got it coming. So this guy becomes captivated by a mysterious and beautiful woman named Azami Yamazaki. However, as their relationship deepens, it becomes clear that she has a dark and twisted past. As Shigeharu delves further into her history, he uncovers a series of gruesome and horrifying secrets. There's one scene, among others, that stands out where, well, let's just say there's like a sack involved. And eventually, later on in the movie, we find out what is inside. A man with some of his fingers missing, his tongue cut out, and his ears chopped off. He's in there starving, slowly dying. Of course, this pic doesn't really count, because if you watch the movie, you know that a lot of what's happening here are just hallucinations from the main guy. This is stuff he pictures in his own head, which isn't real. Orphan. This movie is surprisingly fun to watch. Orphan revolves around a couple, Kate and John Coleman, who, grieving the loss of their stillborn child, decide to adopt a 9-year-old girl named Esther to fill the void. However, Esther's arrival brings unsettling events to their household. Not only do strange things begin happening that may indicate that Esther is not nearly as innocent as she seems, but also she appears to be hitting on the dad. What? As the family becomes increasingly suspicious of her behavior, they uncover disturbing secrets about her true identity and past. The twist is that Esther, the 9-year-old girl whom Kate and John adopt, is not a child at all. Towards the end of the film, it is revealed that she's actually a 33-year-old woman with a rare medical condition called hypopituitarism, which has caused her to appear as a child physically. Esther's true identity is that of a psychopathic and dangerous woman who has been pretending to be a child to gain access to a family. So that's it for the creepiest women in horror movies. As always, I hope you liked it and that I get to see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.